Well, I don't know what you were expecting, but that's the intro for today's podcast episode. So I was working on this commission. My voice is going, sorry. Maybe I've got some kind of virus that might be going around at the moment. So I was working on this commission of what you can probably tell is The Batman. And I suddenly thought, oh shit, I'd planned to record myself painting this. And then I thought, oh shit, it's Thursday. I should be recording a podcast. So now I'm doing both. Fucking shut up. Yeah, Batman from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. The client, we can call them such, requested either a painting of Wolverine of X-Men fame or Batman from The Dark Knight Returns. I've painted a couple of Wolverines, or drawn or painted a couple of Wolverines in my time. I've never really... I've done a couple of silly little Batmans, but not any that I've really spent any time on. So I thought it would be fun to do a Batman. He's quite a fun character, isn't he? And you know, The Dark Knight Returns has quite a signature look to it. A very sort of blocky, stocky looking Batman. Now, he also is quite famous, that one, for having him in his Batman armour, which I'm not including. The client might... I don't know if they meant Batman from Dark Knight Returns as in give him his Batman armour that he wears to fight Superman. If the client did mean that, he's not fucking getting it. Well, that's just, it's not... I could paint that. There's no reason not to at all, really. I just would rather paint... Just Batman being Batman. Torn up. I've not read The Dark Knight Returns. I believe there's an animated motion picture of it, so maybe I ought to check that out. Since, you know, in the modern age, I clearly don't have the attention span to read anything now. Since all I do is look at my screens, I've lost the ability to actually fucking take in media properly, read shit, literature and other fucking worn out, unnecessary, irrelevant words in this day and age in which we live. But I mean, I might just be horribly, horribly wrong in saying this, but my assumption from pictures I've seen of the comic, Batman's all beaten up and bruised with his torn costume, and then later on he's got his armour, so I assume he had a tussle with Superman and got torn up, and then he came back, fucked him up with his armour Like I say, that might be absolutely wrong. Might not be correct at all, but I don't care. I'm just painting the fuck. Something I wanted to do with this painting, but something I've tried a few times and is the exact same result has come about, which is I wanted to go with a really rough painted look, still throw in a few highlights and such, but have it really sort of rough and messy. But then as soon as I start painting it and highlighting it, it becomes just as sort of not neat and tidy, but maybe just as static, if I can use that word, as all my other paintings, which is something I'm trying to get out of with my drawings as well. I feel like they're all sort of losing a kind of energy that I want them to have by sort of becoming very static and confined to a very specific kind of style. And I'm hoping that I will be able to have the time to get myself out of that. I don't want to call it a rut as such, but it feels like it might be something like that, like just a bit of a rut I'm in, stylistically speaking. The issue, of course, especially with something like this, since most of what I do at the moment, especially in terms of if I'm going to take the time to paint something, is for a commission. And so I don't really want to potentially waste my time in experimenting with painting styles on a commission and have it come out shitty and then have to do it again and again and again a whole bunch of times. So when it comes to doing a commission, I think it's best to sort of stick to what I know, get something out there that I know is going to have a happy customer at the end of it. Yeah. Yeah. Or something. But my hope is that I will be able to, at some point, again, not have to worry about making the money through commissions and such, that either my Patreon or something else will crop up to such a degree that it takes care of money troubles, And again, I don't need thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. Just, at the moment, a few extra £100 a month, and I'm pretty much good to go. And then that would free me up to be able to work on the art that I really want to be creating, that I know I can create. If that's more gun Viking, which now Issue 3 is done, I can do more of. This is awful. I want this to be kind of in shadow here and here anyway, so I might just leave that. And also, I really would like to spend some time experimenting with painting techniques, because I've sort of found something that just about works, and now I just do that. I get, better at it the more I do it, obviously, arguably, potentially. I still learn certain things about colours and shape and form, lighting, the technique itself, and all kinds of shit as I do it. But as I say, it becomes very sort of static and uniform, almost painting by numbers, almost. But I'd love to have the time to just say, fuck it, work on some bigger pieces, some canvases, just throw some paint around and come up with something, with a bit more energy, a bit more life to it. Because I'd love for this to just be like blue for the cape and the mask, and make shapes that you can make out what it is, render the face a little bit more just so it stands out a bit more, a few highlights, some slashes for these sorts of lines, blotch in the grey for the suit, shadow here, belt, and then just, you know, some grey like smudges here and here for the legs, blocking the background. That's going to be a purple. You know, maybe flick some paint, have some splats and stuff. Not too over the top, because splats and drips and things get a bit cliched, but that's the sort of thing I'd like to be doing more of. So combine what I do now with a more sort of free and expressive kind of painting style. But again, it's, you know, I'm not complaining that, oh, I'm not making enough money so I don't have time because all I have to do is commissions. It's cool that I'm able to, you know, make money doing commissions, obviously. But the dream, the thing I'm working toward, which is something you need as an artist or an illustrator, so if you've got nothing to work towards, then you've got no reason to, you know, do anything. I mean, yeah, you can just create all day, but even then, you need something, a reason to create. Otherwise, what's the fucking point? So yeah, the goal on my Patreon is if I can make about $700, that will cover my rent in terms of pounds sterling or whatever. Then, you know, I can do maybe 1 or 2 commissions a month, sell a couple of pieces, and then money is good. I'm done for money. That's fine. That's all I need. And then I can spend all the rest of my time just creating cool shit, man. Experimenting where I can, just making stuff that's cool. Make more content, make more videos, more books, comics, paintings, drawings, all of it. Because that's all I want to do. I mean, that's all any of us want to do, really, isn't it? But, you know, potentially I'm not far off being able to do that, which is cool. But, you know, just a little bit more. Just need a little bit more. We'll get there. So if you are watching this and you're not already, please consider subscribing to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. But, you know, preferably more than that. And anyone else will tell you it's definitely worth the money, obviously. I mean, come on. What could be better than more of this? More of you and droning on your fucking screen. Because all you do is look at a screen nowadays anyway. You may as well fucking listen to Ewan on it while you're fucking with your screens. You bloody millennials. Fucking young cunts. How are you all? I hope you're all keeping safe during the pandemic. I mean, I don't really care. No, I do. It's been suggested, and I had thought it previously, but now it's been suggested by someone I sort of, at least somewhat respect. I've been thinking I might look into at least trying to do like a Skype podcast with someone. So I have someone else on board via Skype, record it, upload it as a podcast. Because obviously my preference would be to have it in person. So I'm actually hanging out with the person, just drawing, chatting. It's completely informal, just a bit of fun. You know, record it, upload it. It's a podcast, it's good. But obviously, the current state of things, it's not really possible to do such, is it? Even people, close to me that live close by, I can't talk to in person, let alone people far away. But of course, speaking of people far away, if I do a if I do, oh, that's funny. If I do, if I were to do a Skype conversation for my podcast, then that does open up the possibility of speaking to a far greater number of people from all kinds of other countries and such. And frankly, I think a lot of people would be interested because I have had artists message me completely out of the blue on Instagram and things to say, hey, what's up or whatever, which is very surprising to me and you know, is a heartwarming thing. You know, it makes me feel very good to know that I'm noticed enough by people I admire that they'd reach out and contact me. But yeah, it seems it would be the case that at least some of them would be down to, you know, converse over the internet. I say Skype just off the top of my head. I don't know if there's a better way of doing it. I'm sure there is currently, but Skype's the thing I know at the moment. So, yeah, there's a few illustrators, graffiti writers, just artists in general that I'd love to talk to. My one concern is I would like to have people I at least know a bit more, at least to start with, because then I feel like the conversations would be more comfortable and you know, other people would probably get more out of it as well, rather than just myself. If me and the person have a bit more of a rapport already built, whereas I'm worried about it if it's like the first time I'm talking to a person, of, you know, not necessarily being nervous, but just there being a sort of a barrier there where, you know, if it's with someone I'm friends with, I know we can, not that it's the point, but, you know, we can insult each other, we can just have a laugh and it's all good, it's whatever. Whereas if I don't really know the person, I won't feel comfortable enough to do that. Yeah. And you know, that's mostly for the fact that, like, I don't want to genuinely insult them. I don't want to, you know, make them feel like I've got them recording me talking to them and then I'm just being unnecessarily mean to them for no reason, especially if, you know, I respect them as an artist or whatever. It's just unnecessary. But I might at least do like a practice run with one or two people, or a couple of practice runs with one or two people, see how it goes. And if it works out, then yeah, start reaching out further. More artists, more content, more gooder, as the saying goes. So that could be cool. Explain your painting process, Ewan. I may have already mentioned I'm going to do on the recent Gun Viking cover painting I did a video of. I'm going to record a commentary track to, like, you know, explain the process of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Which I think is a bit better to do that than it is to do it in real time. Because, you know, for instance, Bob Ross, that guy, I fucking hate the name Ross, but we won't get into that. He paints in such a way that it's relatively real time, that it sort of works, whereas what I do doesn't really work for that. So yeah, I think a sort of time-lapse video with me talking over it might be a bit better for that sort of thing. So I think that's the skin done. 2 or 3 layers of highlight is about average. So on this one I've got like the base blue, one highlight for blue, and then a highlight on top of that of lighter blue, and that sort of does the job, especially if you leave in shadows from the underpainting. And then there's the final highlights, where I usually will use a watered down white for some like hotspot highlights here and there, maybe smudge it in a bit, and then just a white acrylic undiluted, just specks for the top highlights. But for most things, especially on a painting like this, that like I'm not going to spend days and days on it. 2 or 3 layers of highlights is about as much as you need to make it really look bueno, as they say in a foreign land. Yeah. So grey is what we need now. Grey for the back clothes. Again, following the colour scheme of The Dark Knight Returns fairly, closely. I used reference to draw the image. This was the rough that I traced over to create that. Yeah, for the shape and sort of look of the Batman, get an idea for the colours. But now this is just sort of taking it out of my head in terms of colour and design and such like. Again, a bit of raw umber. Raw umber is a very, very good colour, because it's a very dull. Sorry, I've got I was holding a paintbrush in my mouth, so my speech is flawed, even more so than normal, you might say. Raw umber is very good because it's a very sort of dull, desaturated brown. So when you add it to colours, it pulls the tone down a bit, stops it being so vibrant. For certain paintings, vibrancy is really cool to have. But sometimes you just want to pull it down a bit more earthen in tone. So something gritty like Batman, especially a painting, it's better to have it not be so vibrant and whatever. So something like raw umber mixed in with whatever colour you're using is good to pull the tone down a bit. So even in a grey, because a grey on its own can be quite a stark colour, but if you throw a bit of brown in there, there's burnt umber as well. Burnt umber is good as like underpainting for skin and stuff, and also underpainting in general. Like if you start a painting with a really watered down burnt umber, maybe with a bit of black in it, just to make it a bit darker, a bit richer, that gives a nice sort of sepia tone to the underpainting that you can paint on top of, depending on what it is you're painting, of course. But then raw umber, as opposed to burnt umber, is a bit duller, a bit more earth in tone. Yeah, look at that. You're learning how to paint, learning about colours and things from old Unky Ewan, which is how I'd like to be referred. I may change my Instagram name to Unky Ewan now, as opposed to Uncle, because I would rather be referred to as Unky Ewan. So if you could all start doing that, that would be grand. Thank you. That's my preferred pronoun, is Unky. I've never even thought about it as a pronoun, but I guess in a way it is, isn't it? It's my preferred pronoun, Unky. Oh, Unky Ewan. Oh, old Unky Ewan. What will he do next? Ooh. Well, something with painting probably, since, you know, that's sort of his shtick. That's what he does for a living. I'm a painter. Look at that. Like Van Gogh, but more successful. It's funny because it's true, but also horrifically sad because it's true. which is an interesting thought I'd had quite some time ago. That in my own time, currently, in terms of timeline, I am more successful than Van Gogh ever was when he was alive. But like I say, that's also quite a sad thought. Because, Van Gogh's good. But of course, Van Gogh had something... I don't even know how to explain it. He had something that I don't think I will have when I'm gone. I think people will probably look at my artwork when I'm gone and be like, yeah, it's good, but like my art is already like a lot of things, whereas Van Gogh took influence from other people, but his art was quite that's one of the reasons he wasn't successful, was because his art wasn't really like anything that people knew. They weren't used to it. I think that's sort of what made him so popular after he passed away, is that his artwork was very different. It stood out from a lot of other things. You can say, oh, but your art's really good and you've got your own unique style. Obviously, I know that. I mean, come on. Point is, I've been watching a lot of sort of skateboarding videos and things lately, because I used to skate, a long time ago. I've been watching a lot of like interviews with professional skateboarders and things, just for something to watch, quarantine time and all. What have you been watching? And yeah, a lot of the pros nowadays will tell you that becoming a professional skateboarder back in the day, in like the 80s and 90s, was relatively easy. Considering, well, compared to how it is nowadays, because obviously people starting skateboarding nowadays have the entire history of skateboarding to sort of work off of as a platform to jump from, as it were, on a skateboard. Whereas, back in the day, they were basically inventing it as they were going. So it didn't take much to be new and innovative. Well, not that it didn't take much, but, there was less already out there. The market was less saturated already, or some such thing. And, it's very similar in that way to art. In that there's already, people trying to be artists now have the history of art to build off of as their platform to jump off of. And so they're just so much better. Like, it's all relative, and there's, it's objective and whatever, but subjective, whatever the fuck. But especially with digital techniques and stuff, to stand out, I think that's the point I was trying to make, is to stand out as an artist is so much harder, because there's already so much out there, whereas a long time ago only so much had been done. So to stand out, you didn't have to do as much. If that makes sense. Of course it makes sense. It's me saying it. I am only speaking. sense-making terms. I can't see quite where I've drawn his bat logo. Let me just scribble it in real quick. Right, And again, his logo in this costume is very squared off. Like that, I think. Shit. That'd be good enough. Doesn't need to be perfect. What does Ewan always say? Doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be good enough. Yeah. Don't strive to be genuinely good at anything. Just strive to be passable. And that'll get you through. I'm trying to be careful of where I want the shadows and such to be. And obviously this grey is fabric hanging over the logo, so it's perfectly alright for it to be there. Possibly. So that's pectoral. And this is another reason I want to go messy and stuff. Because it's when you get down to the details like this that I could just go with a brush and go, yeah, there you go, done, detail, done. Not that I want to be lazy, but you know, would make certain things a little bit easier. Maybe I just need to be a better painter. Maybe. Yeah. Right, so he's kind of hunched over. So his ribs is sort of pushing his belly together a little bit. So I want to show some sort of bunched, fleshy material there. And then his stomach. Maybe that isn't good. Maybe that should be in shadow. God damn. Okay, with my painter, let's just put in his little paunchy stomach for now. Well, I did say I wanted to be messier, didn't I? That works. Does that work? Yeah, it works. Kind of. Do you know what it is? It's good enough. It's good enough. We'll leave it at that because it's good enough. So how are things going? How are things with me? Well, let's not talk about that. So I'm this weekend going to be emailing the printer that I work with, Rich at Comic Printing UK, for a quote on getting Gun Viking issue 3 printed. Very, very exciting. And then while doing that, I'm going to try to remaster some of the pages of issue 1, which I had mentioned doing, and then hopefully I can factor that into the cost of printing and get some more of those printed as well, which is also exciting. And then get them printed, potentially have them in here within a week or two, and then they'll be available for, you know, everyone's been fucking screaming about it, which again, I think I've said before a couple of times, but very, very sort of blown away by how excited people are for gun Viking. Because I do remember a time when, you know, I'd post something about gun Viking on Instagram and it would get like 12 likes, like just nothing, you know. And, you know, it doesn't get loads and loads and loads and loads now, but it gets far more than it used to, which I'm, you know, incredibly glad and other words about, you know, don't know what to say. I'm just, yeah, it makes me smile. I'm happy about it, you know. It's good to know. It's very good to know that people are feeling what I'm doing, you know. Everyone seems very eager to buy copies of Gun Viking, and I'm eager to get them printed, you know. Selling them is one thing, like it's cool that people want them, and, you know, I guess I can potentially make money from it, but ultimately my goal is just to make the thing. That's the point. It's just to have the thing made, so I can hold it in my hands, I can look at it and go, cool, another one. I made a thing, put the work in, had a project, and I completed it. I did the thing, which is a really good feeling. I'm sure everyone probably has the same thing of, if you have a to-do list. With my to-do list, I'm very purposeful with them. Like, I write them in black and then cross them out in like a big thick red pen, so that when it's finished is red lines over everything, just so I can look at it and go, everything is done. Everything I plan to do from that list is done. That's what I do with commissions and whatever else. So it's like that on a whole other level of like making a book and then finally getting it back from the printers, holding it in your hand, seeing a whole box full of copies and being able to say, you did it. You finished the thing. It's come out how you wanted it. Like it was, I mean, art is that to a degree, I guess, where you have a thing in your head and then you make it and then you can look at it, which is, you know, one of the reasons I paint and draw at all. There's been a few times where I've actually painted or drawn copies of artworks that I've wanted to own, but, you know, can't afford because it's an artwork, and then hung it on my wall and been like, well, it may not be the original, but I have the image that I want to hang on my wall hanging on my wall. And I think that's what I've always loved about art, is I can just make shit that I want to look at. And then, you know, on a whole other level from that, is make that shit a whole entire fucking book, which is extremely cool. Which is a very cool thing to be able to do, you know, in this day and age, that you can literally make something, put it in a PDF, send it to a guy, he prints it, and then you've got a book. Like, that's fucking phenomenal that you can do that. Again, would still absolutely love to be professionally published. You know, for one thing, for the clout, I guess, so I can say, well, yeah, I'm published by whoever, or I've got a publisher, you know, and then also because they handle you know, shipping and stuff, so I don't have to have boxes and boxes of a product in my small living space that I have to, you know, wrap up and send out to everybody, which, you know, I don't mind doing. That's all part of the thing. You know, I handwrite addresses, you know, partly because I don't have a printer, but also because it's just part of the thing, isn't it? You send something you've made to someone with a handwritten address, you know, a little note inside saying thank you. It's all just part of the thing, isn't it? But it would be nice to be able to say, go onto this website, you know, preferably not just Amazon, but whatever, go to this website, buy my book, and then the publisher ships it to you because that's their job. Or, you know, whoever the publisher has assigned distribution to. Yeah, so that's the hopes one day. But at the same time, if it's not to be, if I've just got to do everything myself, then, you know, if that's how it goes, that's how it goes. You know. I think this is coming out all right so far. What do you guys think? Leave a comment. Let me know how you think it's coming out at this point in the podcast. Again, I'm not getting down. I'm staying positive. You fat cunt. Let's get some quick details in just to really make it pop. There's quite a lot for me to do still. Another one or two highlights on the grey. The background, I say again, will be purple. Either dark fading down to light or light fading down to dark. I'll probably keep it lighter down here actually and then have it darker up here. Whatever. So right now I think I'll get the belt and the teeth and eyes in because that will just make it pop just for the video for you guys, for you to see. I may also get some black spray paint just to spray upwards just to get some more shadow in it. More grit, more shadow. A bit dark, a bit nicer, a bit cool. So let's mix some raw umber with some white we can use for the teeth and eyes. And, oh shit. And then with some yellow ochre, which is the only yellow I like to use really. I don't like to use actual yellows like cadmium yellow or whatever. I do use them, but only if it's like, if it's something I need to be like obviously yellow compared to, you know, the yellow ochre that I'm using. But generally yellow ochre, you know, mixed with brown or mixed with whatever else is about as yellow as I like to get. Because again, I don't want to have things be too bright and, you know, putridly vibrant. Just yellow enough. Now in the images I've seen of this in the comic, he's got like a busted nose and swollen eye, I think. So I'm going to try and make that sort of obvious. I might have to add bits in on top afterwards, but either way, that should be doable. I think it would be nice to have a time lapse of this, but realistically it would be like time lapse of half a painting, so I don't think I'll really actually do that one. Might make a nice little like 30-second video for Instagram, but you know, maybe I'll just see about it. Stuff like this you can usually get away with only the 2 highlights. And like for the eyes, for instance, the first shade is more or less just the underpainting. That's kind of neat. I want this side to look a bit more closed. So yeah, I may add to that a bit later. Bit of white in there just for the highlight. Bring them out from the teeth a little bit. So that's come out all right so far. Let's get this belt in. And again, this would be somewhere I'd love to have just the yellow paint and just quickly block in, you know, the belt, the buckle and everything, and have done with it. As thus, and you know, there's no reason I can't leave it like that. Obviously another layer just to make it a bit more solid, but and that's something else I'd like to sort of experiment a bit more with, is having more wild energetic paintings with slightly rendered parts to them. Which I think I said before anyway, about having like more rendered face and stuff. But yeah, I'd like to experiment with painting a bit more. But again, sort of time and stuff that I need to do that I can't really spend whilst doing commissions. But I might. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Batman's utility belt. Now, of course, traditionally, I'd make that look like shiny. I don't want to say gold, fucking whatever colour it's supposed to be. I'd make it look shiny, but I won't, because he's supposed to be like arching over and there's shadow cast and stuff. So I'll probably leave it at that. Maybe tidy it up a bit, but ultimately that's it. And you can see that's yellow ochre mixed with raw umber, and it looks yellow in comparison to everything else. So that's why I prefer to use that as my yellow rather than yellow. Because if I were, I mean, I don't want to go crazy, but if I take a medium yellow, just a basic acrylic. Nope, that one's dried up. I'll throw that one in a bit. I do have a yellow somewhere. A high point to end the thing. A lemon yellow. Okay, there we go. Which is quite a light yellow anyway. But if we take some of that and just dab it just a little bit next to it, you'll see, like, that's yellow, which is just ridiculous to use, you know, with everything else. So that's why the yellow ochre, the earth tones, are better for the... Anyway, that was this episode. Next time.